For the record, this is Jerry Allen interviewing Eloise Klein Healy in Sherry Gocke's studio in Silver Lake, California. Okay, so how did you first learn about the Women's Building? What was your first experience with the Women's Building?
Martha Ronk gave me a flyer, and it was about the Women's Words Conference. And so we said, we'll go together. We were teaching together at that time. And off we went. We didn't know anything about it. You know, it was just, this looks interesting. And it was like thunder and lightning. I was just amazed. I had never seen so many women writers or women artists or anything like that in my entire life. I didn't know any writers. You know, I was in a women's college. I didn't have any women writer professors. They were all men. They were not exactly men who were professional writers. So we were kind of just not in the real world of writing. And when we went there, it was amazing to me because here were like 300 people. And I just felt stunned. And that people had books. I couldn't imagine that either. What happened? So it was quite amazing to go there. As you know, many of the people who came to the building were lesbians, and I found myself in just this kind of delightful company, and I really liked everybody. And then in another part of my life, I met someone, and I realized, oh my goodness, something is going on here. And I used to say to my husband, Matthew, why do you think they always invite me to things? I remember Arlene had said to me, oh, you're definitely going to come and take my class, aren't you? And I said to Matthew, I don't know if I should take that class. It's lesbian artists. He says, well, what do you think? Arlene likes you. Of course she'd want you to take the class. Of course you must go. And I remember going to her house, and I was terrified. It was like I felt like my skin had been taken off or something. It was total terror. So I thought, the best thing I can do is take notes, because then I won't have to talk to anybody, and I won't have to look at anybody, and I won't have to ask questions. I'm just going to take notes like crazy. And it was almost a liminal space. I remember walking in there. It was like being on drugs or something. I just felt the air was so palpable, so charged. And I'm sure I was the only person feeling like that, maybe, because all these other gals were completely comfortable. You don't think everybody was not completely comfortable but me? So that was another gigantic thing for me, because I left my marriage at the from all of those experiences at the building and coming out. I have to thank him incredibly, because he at one time said to me, if you should decide that you're going to leave me, or that we're going to separate, you shouldn't think that you're somehow leaving your normal life and you're going off into this kind of not normal life. He said, these people are all your normal life, and I'm the not normal part of your life. And in a way, it had grown to be kind of true. It was unsettling in that suddenly most of my past didn't make a lot of sense. And I probably wouldn't have come to that idea unless I had run into such a cataclysmically large, life-changing experience there. Here I was. I had 16 years of Catholic education. I had been student body president twice. I was basically your all-American good girl model. And suddenly, I am like running around with witches on broomsticks. It was crazy. I had not expected to be a poet. I had not expected to hang out with all these wild artists. And there I was, The women writers who were coming into the building wanted to do things that would engage the public more and get more people to come to the building and get more people acquainted with women writers. And that's why a reading series was started, and there were several different reading series as time went on. But in those days, it was also somewhat early in the careers of some people now who are extraordinarily well-known women writers, like Adrienne Rich and Audre Lorde, and Jill Johnston just had her very famous book come out about Lesbian Nation. That night that Margaret Atwood was there, something happened that I had never seen happen before. She had done her reading, and then she said, I'll take questions from the audience. So some people started to ask her questions, and a man asked a question, and she said, I don't answer questions from men. And I thought everybody was just going to fall on the floor. I mean, the whole room just went totally silent, like, wow, what a thing that you could say. And he sat down. It was quite amazing. She totally made that space a woman-only space, although there were men in it. And that was a fairly new thing to do. If there were women-only spaces, in my experience at that time, it was because no men had been invited. But this was an event that was open to the public, so it was like anybody could come. But she basically said, anybody can be here, but I'm only going to deal with some of you. And it was a gender split. You know, she wasn't going to answer questions by men. She said they've had enough time, so the women should ask the questions. I was talking to Holly Prado because I was thinking, gee, maybe I could teach a course here. And a woman was standing next to me, and she said, oh, what do you want to teach? I said, I'd like to teach about Gertrude Stein. And she said, so would I. So that was Alice Block, and she and I team taught a course on Gertrude Stein, and that was my first experience teaching at the building. And subsequently, the next thing I had was a lesson in how to hang sheetrock. At that moment, there was a room that had to be built on the 3rd floor. So you know how things were. Someone would say, we're going to build a room on the 3rd floor, and off you would go with a group of other people. I also took courses from people. I took a class from Susan King in letterpress printing and did some letterpress things, a broadsheet or two, some postcards. And in turn, Susan took a class from me, and then she did a book for me. But she also, since we're at it, she also designed the cover of a book that came out of efforts at the Women's Building. This book was published by Books of a Feather Press. It's my second book of poems, and it's called A Packet Beating Like a Heart. I keep falling in love with Close Up How Soft You Cave In When You Laugh. You color the room deep as a movie in which you walk but don't walk, though you get bigger but don't change size, though your shirt gets redder but fuller with black dots. I catch myself caught up in you, silk about to move 3 tones of red at your nipples. And that was how that happened.
Sweet.